Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive all about the law of attraction.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of people have questions about, like,
Yeah.
why isn't this working for me? And we got some really cool listener material this time around that had, I think it was 15 points about
Hmm.
why people might be hitting some roadblocks with
Yeah.
this. So
Mm,
we're going to dive into that,
definitely.
but also look at,
What to do about it?
yeah, how to make it actually work for you, because there's
Right.
some really surprisingly simple shifts that can make a big difference.
For sure.
So, okay, before we jump into those specific roadblocks,
Yeah.
just to make sure we're all on the same page,
Mhm.
the basic idea is that, like, attracts, like,
Right.
meaning that your thoughts, positive or negative, influence the outcomes you experience in your life.
It's not just about magic, like thinking like, if I think it will come.
Right.
It's really about aligning your mindset and your actions
Okay,
with what you want to achieve.
that makes sense.
And a really key part of that is understanding the role of your subconscious beliefs.
Okay, this is interesting because our source material actually used this example of, like, someone who wants to find love, let's say,
Hmm.
but deep down doesn't believe that they're actually worthy of it.
Right.
Like, how do we even start to figure out what those hidden beliefs are that might be messing things up?
It's such a good question. And sometimes it's about looking at like patterns in your life. Like, say you constantly
Hmm.
find yourself in relationships where you're not getting the respect you deserve,
Uh-huh.
that could suggest a deeper belief that you don't deserve to be treated well. And then the law of attraction comes in and it's like,
Uh-huh.
well, if you're putting out this I'm not worthy vibe,
Yeah.
you're probably going to attract more experiences that just kind of prove that belief.
So it's almost like we have to become detectives of our own minds and look
Yeah.
for the clues in our experiences.
Exactly, like an ongoing self-discovery journey.
That's really cool. Okay, so once we start to uncover those limiting beliefs, what do we do next?
That's where the action part comes in. And our source material really highlighted this.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just like sit and visualize a better reality.
Yeah.
You got to actually take steps to make it
Oh,
happen.
for sure. They even said, like, what about the person who dreams of a new job
Yes,
but isn't even applying for any?
exactly.
Like,
That's not going to work.
it's not aligned action.
Not at all.
And this is where it gets even more interesting because they connect this to energy and vibration.
Yes.
So the idea that when you're stuck in those negative emotions, fear, doubt, all that stuff,
Development.
it actually lowers your vibrational frequency. And they directly compared points 5 and 6 here in the source material to show how important that is.
It's like you're trying to tune into your favorite radio station, but there's all this interference. You
Yeah.
got to clear out that interference.
How do we do that? Because they give us some tips like meditation or spending time in nature, things that,
Boost your mood?
yeah, make you feel good.
Yeah.
What are
yeah.
some of your go-tos?
I find that even just like taking a walk in the park
Mm.
can be really grounding.
Uh-huh.
Noticing the sights and sounds and music is huge. Like just putting on some music that makes me feel good can totally change my energy.
I love that.
Yeah.
So finding what works for you, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a
yeah.
good takeaway for everyone listening.
Yeah.
What are some things that really bring you joy? Because those are the things that are going to raise your vibration
For sure.
and help you attract more positivity.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked about subconscious beliefs and taking action, but they also brought up this thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, which is unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
And they gave that classic example of, like, the lottery.
Of course.
We all dream of winning.
Yeah.
But if you're only focused on that and it's statistically so improbable,
Right.
it can lead to a lot of disappointment.
Totally.
And it's not just about those, like, big life-changing things. It can be even smaller everyday things.
Absolutely. Like if your expectations are constantly out of sync with your reality,
Mhm.
it's just setting yourself up for frustration.
Yeah. Which brings us to gratitude.
Yes.
The source material really emphasized how if you're constantly focused on what you lack,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually be really detrimental to the whole manifesting process.
And that's where the idea of a scarcity mindset comes in. I don't think they use that term specifically,
Okay.
but that's what they're getting at.
Yeah.
It's like this belief that there's not enough to go around.
Right.
So you're constantly feeling this lack, which can block abundance.
It's like you're telling the universe, I don't have enough of this, please don't give me any more.
Right.
Not really the message we want to be sending.
Not at all.
So it's about shifting to abundance, appreciating what you do have
Exactly.
while still working towards those goals.
Yes.
All right, get ready for this next one because it's a little counterintuitive.
Okay.
They talked about fear of success.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it might sound strange,
Yeah.
but it's more common than you think. Like, imagine you get that promotion you've been working towards. Suddenly, you've got more responsibility, higher expectations, maybe even a greater chance of failure.
Right.
That can be daunting for some people.
Yeah, and they gave an example just like that, too.
It's not that you don't want the success,
Right.
but there's this fear that comes with it.
That can be so strong it actually sabotages you.
Wow.
Like maybe you start procrastinating or making excuses or even doing things that prevent you from reaching your full potential.
It's like you're putting up these invisible barriers,
Exactly.
even though you consciously think you want it.
It's fascinating.
That's so wild. And this ties in with their point about the impact of your environment.
Yes.
You know, they said if you're constantly surrounded by negativity, it's going to drag you down.
Makes sense. If you're bombarded with complaints and criticism and negativity, it's going to seep in.
Totally. And it applies to all areas of life, right?
Definitely.
Your work, social circles, even the media you consume.
It's about being mindful of the energy you're letting into your space
Right.
and making choices that support a higher vibration.
So it's not just our internal thoughts and beliefs, but also those external influences.
It's all interconnected.
I love how all these pieces are starting to fit together
Yeah.
to give us a more complete picture of how this law of attraction thing really works.
Definitely.
And we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we'll continue this deep dive after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. So before the break, we were talking about our environment
Right.
and how important it is to have like a positive, supportive environment.
Uh-huh.
And that actually leads us perfectly into the next point,
Okay.
which is this idea of ignoring our intuition.
Oh, intuition.
Yeah.
That gut feeling that we sometimes
Yeah.
kind of push aside.
Yeah, and it can be so subtle, right? Especially when it's like urging you to do something that's outside your comfort zone.
Right.
It's like this little whisper of guidance,
Mm-hmm.
kind of nudging you toward those opportunities that are aligned with your desires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our source material had an example of someone who felt drawn to connect with a potential mentor,
Mm-hmm.
but they hesitated because of fear.
It's so easy to let fear and doubt
Right.
drown out that inner voice.
Yeah, even when it's trying to point us in the right direction.
That's like we're second guessing the universe's plan.
I also wonder about the role of timing, because sometimes you might have a strong intuition about something,
Right.
but it doesn't work out the way you expected.
Yeah.
Does that mean you misread it, or could it just be a timing thing?
That's a really good question. It could definitely be a timing thing because the law of attraction isn't about like instant gratification.
Right.
Sometimes things need to unfold in a certain way.
Yeah.
And what might seem like a failure could actually be a redirection to something even better.
So trusting the process, even when
Swing the process.
it doesn't go as planned.
Yeah. And talking about things that can kind of derail our manifesting journey. The source material talked about comparison,
Oh, yeah.
how it can be so detrimental,
It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing,
especially with social media.
right?
It's like this constant barrage of perfect lives.
Comparison is the thief of joy, isn't it?
It is.
Ugh.
You're always measuring yourself against others,
Right.
which makes you feel inadequate, and that lowers your vibration.
And it's like you're saying, I'm not good enough because I don't have what they have.
Exactly. It's that energy of lack
Mm-hmm.
that can block abundance.
How do we break free from that comparison trap?
Well, they talked about the importance of focusing on your own unique journey
Okay.
and celebrating other people's successes without letting it take away from your own worth.
Yeah, someone else's success doesn't diminish our own potential.
Exactly. It's about shifting from competition to collaboration
I like that.
and inspiration. You can admire others' achievements
Mhm.
while still staying focused on your own path.
And that brings us back to visualization,
Yes.
which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The source material really emphasized making those visualizations vivid.
Vivid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough to just picture success in this vague way.
Right.
You have to really engage your senses.
Uh-huh.
What does your ideal life look like? What does it feel like?
Okay.
What are the sounds and smell?
Like creating a mental movie
Exactly.
of your desired reality.
The more vivid and emotionally charged those visualizations are,
Yeah.
the stronger the signal you're sending to the universe.
This reminds me of something I read about the connection between visualization
Oh, yeah.
and quantum physics.
Interesting.
Apparently, when we focus our attention on something, we're sending out energy waves
Wow.
that can actually influence matter
That's pretty mind-blowing.
at a subatomic level.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, and we might not fully understand like all the science behind it,
Right.
but there's definitely growing evidence that our thoughts do have a real impact on our reality.
Speaking of tangible impact, the source material was really clear that
Right.
we can't just rely on the law of attraction to do all the work. They had this example of someone who wanted better health,
Okay.
but wasn't making any changes to their lifestyle,
Oh, right.
just expecting the universe to magically or
Instant make it happen.
transform their body.
Yeah. You can't just wish for a marathon win without doing the training.
Right.
You got to take action.
So it's a partnership.
It
We
is.
have to meet the universe halfway.
You set the intention, visualize the outcome, and then take those inspired action steps.
So it's not about passively waving. It's
Yeah.
about actively creating.
It's about taking ownership of your power
Yeah.
as a creator.
I love that. This has been so insightful.
It has been.
I feel like I'm really starting to get how this all works.
I'm glad. And the exciting thing is this is just the beginning.
Right.
There's always more to discover.
About the power of our thoughts and intentions.
For sure.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our Law of Attraction deep dive. It's amazing how much we've unpacked already, but I feel like there's still more to uncover.
Yeah. The more you delve into it, the more you realize how interconnected it is with everything.
For sure. We've talked about beliefs and actions and energy and our surroundings and so much more. Is there anything from all of this that really stands out to you as like a key takeaway?
Well, one thing that really resonated with me was that the law of attraction applies to all our thoughts,
Oh, okay.
not just the positive ones.
That's interesting because we've been talking about how negative thoughts lower our vibration, but it sounds like you're saying we need to go a step further.
It's about becoming aware of those sneaky little negative thoughts we might not even realize are holding us back. Like maybe you're always complaining about traffic or worrying about stuff you can't control.
Oh,
Those seemingly insignificant thoughts can create this like negative undercurrent in our minds.
like those tiny little leaks in a boat that can eventually sink the whole thing.
Exactly. So the challenge is to really pay attention to our thoughts, both the good and the bad, and then consciously choose to shift those negative patterns.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we actually reprogram those ingrained negative thought patterns?
It's not about ignoring them or pretending they're not there.
Yeah.
It's more about acknowledging them without judging yourself and then choosing to focus on a more positive perspective.
Okay.
Like instead of complaining about traffic, maybe you use that time to listen to an uplifting podcast or practice gratitude for having a car to drive.
It's about training your mind to look for the good, even when things aren't perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And over time, as you consistently make that choice, you'll notice a shift in your overall energy and the experiences you attract.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of how the law of attraction actually works.
It's exciting, right? There's always more to learn about this.
Definitely. Before we wrap up, I'd love to give our listeners a little something to take action on. What's one small step they can take today to start using the law of attraction in their own lives?
Start paying attention to your thoughts throughout the day. Notice those negative patterns and ask yourself, can I choose a more positive perspective right now?
Such a simple but powerful shift.
It can make a big difference.
This has been an incredible journey into the law of attraction. We hope you've gained some insights and feel inspired to start manifesting your dreams.
Remember, you have the power to create your own reality. Choose those thoughts wisely.
That's all for this deep dive. Until next time, keep those vibes high and take those aligned actions. Thanks for listening.